Okay. Is that what kind of? So I don't know if I'm saying this right. So Elam Woods is here. He's asked a question, more or less about when I knew I wanted to be a programmer, and he follow up here. But for sure, I think that the thing that wins me over is I want to become something around IT. And the thing that wins me into that is that you never stop learning and discovering new things. And I cannot overstate my agreement with that. So when did I discover I wanted to become a programmer? So he actually followed up with the question, did you always want to know? Did you always know that you wanted to be a programmer? Or did you come to that knowledge later on? And so the quick version of my history, which reminds me, I need to add somebody to my mentors list. I just realized I forgot my grandpa. I got to put him on there. Yeah, I definitely got to put my grandpa on there. So I've been building this list for, this is a boost thing. So in case you're wondering, just go, it's a new boost. I'm going to say my mother, my grandpa's, plural. And so my grandpa was an accountant for the school district who was, wicked brilliant and ran the computers back then when they had tape. I know I'm going to date myself. And they had punch cards and all kinds of stuff. And he took me and he showed me how cool it was. And he told, I'll never forget, he told me on the way back in the car, he said, look, I know you really are into programming and stuff. He goes, but I was really young. I was probably 12, 10, 11, 12, something like that. And he said, don't just learn programming. And I should probably do a video on this, but he said, don't just learn programming, learn something else, because programming is going to be in everything. And I cannot overstate that. So don't just learn programming. I should probably do this another thing. Trick with my grandpa to see the big computers, right? Now he was a computer guy, and I was already kind of interested in it. So I learned to code on an Atari 400, doing Dungeons and Dragons character generation in 80, whatever. D&D character gen, and I loved it. That was my first ever interaction with a computer, and it was the only computer in the school, and I was allowed access, which I thought made me super special. Truth is, I was getting beat up every day because I was such a nerd. I had huge buck teeth, and the media guy, Mr. Bevins, which I also want to put in my mentors list. Why did I miss these guys? How the hell did I miss them? I got to put these people. I'm going to give them credit when I do the beginning boost. Mr. Blaine Polston. So Mr. Bevins. Yep. Yeah, the Dungeons and Dragons. Yep, you betcha. Yeah, I was a class A nerd, and I was really bad. I had 2 sets of headgear. I had thick glasses. And I was an introvert, but I would chase people down to find people to play D&D with because I thought it was so cool. And so I made a Atari 400. It rolled random dice. I did it wrong. I generated a number between 1 and 18 instead of adding 3 random numbers between 1 to 6 together. I realize that now. If you ever make your kind of thing, if you don't know why that's wrong, look into your statistics theory and you'll get it. And have some fun with that. So that was it. That was when I knew as the first thing that I did on a computer was make something I wanted. And that has continued to permeate every level of motivation forever after since then. That's the reason I do anything. The reason I do any of this stuff is because I can get something out of it. It's not because I'm supposed to do it or it's cool or whatever, or even money. It's the money's sort of there, but it's more about the power programming gives you. So the answer is yes. I knew from the first second I saw what I could do with a computer, and I could wait for 30 minutes for Mars Lander to load on a cassette tape if I wanted to, or I could spend time coding in BASIC and get it to do what I wanted it to do. And then shortly after that, I got identified and put in this GT Quest program, and I was able to spend a good hour every day working on something, and I made my own sort of crappy missile command wannabe. You had to type in your coordinates. You couldn't there was nothing to point to the screen. You had to type in your coordinates, but I had sound and all that jazz. And so I have to keep telling myself that too, because that was what really compelled me to want to do stuff with the computer. Because I could force it to draw. When I found poke and peek, you guys know about this? In the old 56 monitor kind of thing, you could poke and peek each pixel, and you could draw your own stuff directly to the screen. So I was literally like writing games that poked and picked pixels on 8-bit Atari, and that was really my start. That was a fun program and everything, but to this day I still like the D&D character program more because I could generate lots of characters really quickly, and I could use those in another part of my life. I would run dungeons for people, and I just absolutely was obsessed with D&D. And so it enabled me to do a lot of D&D stuff. Then I started writing papers on the computer. I couldn't find anybody to print it. I was like, started to write papers. I've been typing since I was 8, so I love typing in general. But hard time finding printers. We go like to all of our neighbors and say, do you have a printer? Do you have a printer? Do you have a printer? Nobody had a printer. Everybody had a computer, but nobody had a printer. So there were games before Minecraft. Hell yeah. So that was it. And then what? And then after that, to tell you the truth, I sort of got into other things, and then I don't know how to put this. I got into girls and other things, get into skating, dancing, girls, and band. I got in high school and stuff. I stopped doing computers almost entirely, except for my papers. I didn't do any coding at all. I was out in the world. I was listening to music. I was in bands. I was doing all kinds of things. I was just really, really active, and soccer, actually. I did soccer too. It's how you spell with an E. I don't know. So I didn't do anything with computers until college. And then, no kidding. I barely use them. In fact, I would come to see an IBM computer, and I'd be like, hey, I'm going to go back and play with that someday. I knew how to use them when I had to. So that made me able to do my job as the executive committee chairman for assemblies and activities and stuff. So I was able to use it, but it was a tool. It was just a tool. It was this unsexy tool that I didn't obsess about, but I got a lot of shit done on it. Sorry. I got a lot of stuff done on it. And then, then what? Then I went to college. And at that point, I got myself a laptop. Actually, I went on my mission to the West Indies, and I used computers a lot for that. I wrote the first translation into French of the missionary discussions for our area with a friend. He and I were working on it together. And then we did, then I came back from that, and I wanted to get a laptop, and laptops were kind of becoming a thing. And and then I was just using computers all the time. And then I started getting into languages, and again, got into languages, and creating, language tutorial software, language software. So I created flashcards and stuff. So once again, the theme here has always been, I've always been into making stuff. And programming helps. That's really it. Allowed that. That's really what it's about. And so if and it's always been that for me, even to today, I continue to be motivated by making things that are not just necessarily fun, but they're fun to me and they make a difference. And so if it's not something I don't want to do, I don't want to. Okay, I'm gonna own something here. I took one semester, basic. Basic. It was my first language. I took one CS 101 class, Pascal, and dropped CS after that. I hated it. After. And then learned so much more at Humanities Research Computer Lab. I think they call it Digital Humanities now. At Digital. because they were doing stuff with the code. They weren't just theorizing. Humanities. I'm serious. There was a guy there who made a telnet application that talked to the library system. Everything that was happening in the Digital Humanities Lab was for a purpose. It wasn't some theoretical bubble sort shit. It was like real stuff. It was accomplishing real things, and it was there that I discovered the internet and the web, which I taught myself, and I taught myself the web. Taught myself HTML from the specs and stuff and examples. And then I went and got a job as an internet service provider and went to work at Teleport. Then got headhunted into Nike and then got headhunted at IBM and now I'm here. So that's how it started. The first internet code that I wrote was HTML, and then probably the biggest thing I did is I learned Perl on Mac with SimpleText. I kid you not. And I wrote something for fb.pl. I wrote something called fb.pl, which I don't remember why it was called that. It was a form. It was feedback. It was a feedback form that would process your forms, and I actually let anybody on the internet send their forms to my fb.pl script that was running just like randomly on my computer. and I could see everything. It was all open, and they didn't care because they wanted to get their mail back. And that was probably the first Perl code that I wrote. And after that, that just snowballed into a career in tech. And I got a Russian degree. So no CS degree there. That's all. Last comment here. Maybe it's had fun, but 15-year-old kid would understand what I love for programming is when I discovered GTA versus RP. I don't know what that is, which is servers. And I get it. The trip that I started to learn Luna language. I think you mean Lua, right? In order to start a server development. Yeah. And a lot of people are like that. A lot of people go through those different things. And my story is kind of dated. It's kind of post-boomer, like Gen X-y kind of story. But I find that this is a lot, that the common theme here is that you are figuring out stuff that you want. I think this is why people are so compelled to learn web languages first, because they think that if they learn a web language, it's going to get them what they want. And I've been kind of fighting against that to try to say, no, there's actually a lot of power right here on the terminal command line in your computer without installing anything but Docker. Or even, without that, there's a lot of power there that you're just missing, and you're not even seeing it because you're so focused on this web stuff, because that's what you've been seeing all your life. So that's the reason. All right.